It's now 16 minutes after 7 o'clock in Antigua, Barbuda. This is Observer AM. Darren Matthew Ward in your company. And Mr. Roland Timothy. He's the DNA candidate for St. John's City South. This is the man that's representing the party to defeat the incumbent Steadroy Cutie Benjamin, who currently serves as Attorney General, Minister of Justice. Good morning. Welcome to Observer AM, Mr. Timothy.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the kind and warm welcome, Mr. Ward. It's my second interview with you, and I'm really excited to be here. I would just like to say to the listening public of Antigua and Barbuda, good morning to you. Thank you for listening to me this morning, and as I present the DNA policies for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. It's very exciting to be here this morning.
Sound like you're ready for the campaign, my friend.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Let me ask you, how is the campaign going so far? I mean, what's the feedback you're getting, the energy, the vibe? Are voters interested in hearing what you have to say? What's the feedback you're getting from the constituents?
It's been very positive so far. Thank you for that question, Darren. As I reach out to the constituents of St. John's City South, I'm getting sort of mixed feelings, but people are happy to know that there is an alternative. For far too long, we've been under the two-party system, and there have been people calling out for something different. People have tried the red, they've tried the blue. Now, as we say, it's time to try something new. And particularly, I'm reaching out to especially the younger people in the constituency. And part of the reason is because I recognize, and we in the DNA recognize, that the children are the future, and so we need to reach out to the younger people, get the influence in what's happening in Antigua and Barbuda, because they do have a voice. And for the other more established people in the constituency, as I reach out to them, they do share their views, they do share their concerns, and so we address a number of issues, and I've been warmly received and welcomed so far in the constituency, I must add. All
right. Are there any unique challenges that you find because you are a newcomer, you're, a younger individual? Do you find any unique challenges in that regard? People look at you a little differently because, well, you're not a known quantity, so to speak?
Well, yes. The unique challenge is that I'm just not known enough. Let's put it that way. So a lot of people would hear the name. Of course, the DNA has launched our candidate, so you hear of the name Roland Timothy. But it's just getting in touch with the people and getting them to know who Roland Timothy actually is. So outside of that, of course, nothing really stands out otherwise than just getting to be known out there. So that's why we're pushing as well our social media platforms. And that has been working out very well. We also have a radio program on another station, and we try to reach out to the people of Antigua and Barbuda in particular, and the constituency of St. John's City South. So that is working out very well in terms of overcoming that challenge.
Okay. What do people find the challenges they're facing in the constituency?
One of the main things is representation or empowerment, especially among the youth. What it is, Darren, is that the youth has said to me, you know what, we do not want any handouts. We want empowerment. We have business ideas. We want to be independent. And so we want a representative that's going to represent our interests. We want to be put to work. A young man in particular, he says, you know what, I want to get into the taxi business. And so all I need, not necessarily to have to be running to somebody for a handout or to assist me, but just to facilitate my starting up of my business and carrying on of my business. So it's just proper representation, not getting the feeling or the sense that, the representative is just there looking out for their own interests and that of those close to them. But how do they represent the interests of the general public and the constituency in particular?
When you go to campaign, I don't know how often you campaign.
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you go to campaign and someone says to you, look, because we have a two-party system and people don't want to be considering the notion or contemplating the notion that they're going to waste a vote. When they say to you, look, the DNA isn't going to win any seats, it's not really going to form another government, so therefore why are you bothering? Or why should I bother vote for you? I'm sure you've gotten that. Have you gotten that?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you respond to that? when you're out in the campaign trail?
You know, I am a very confident person within my own self. And so I do not get be swayed by the people who think that, you know, they're going to be wasting their vote. As a matter of fact, just last week I was in a conversation with a group of people, and one guy laughed at me and said, "Oh, I'm not going to waste my vote with the DNA because you know you're not going to win." And I said, "Well, why do you say that?" He said, "Well, because that's just how it is in Antigua. It's either going to be red or blue." But Darren, what I've been using is somewhat of a more scientific approach in terms of data collection and just some of the strategies that I'm using in terms of reaching out to the people. And you would be surprised. And I think even the incumbent is going to be surprised at the headway that is being made in the constituency. So it is not just me putting myself out there and foolishly thinking that, you know, as a matter of fact, I will tell you this much. Another gentleman said to me, "Oh, you're just here to take away the votes from the other opposition. And so, you know, nothing is going to change because you're just weakening the current opposition." Well, we do not necessarily consider ourselves opposition, but an alternative to what is. And that's what we're offering.
But you're in
to
opposition to...
We are in opposition,
right.
Yeah. But we want the people of Antigua and Barbuda to know that the Democratic National Alliance is an alternative to the government of Antigua and Barbuda, an alternative party to the government of Antigua and Barbuda. And yes, it is slow in coming, but guess what? We've been here for 5 years so far. And whilst people say, you know what, a three-party system is not going to work in Antigua, we've celebrated our 5th anniversary on April the 18th of this year, and we're going to continue to be here. So we're going to continue working hard for the people of Antigua and Barbuda and the interests of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. What we have put through, actually, Darren, is our policy documents, and we invite people to go onto our website and, you know, give a read on our policies.
2040?
That is correct, our Vision 2040.
Okay.
So we invite the general public to go onto our website and view the policies that we have. And if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to us and let us know what they are as we reach out to you.
Any inspiration from Dickon Mitchell?
Ah, yes. He is a young man, 44 years old, relatively new as far as we understand to the political arena. But he is, you know, he's won his campaign on somewhat the whole notion of transformational leadership as well, right? And so we are definitely inspired to see a young person who's been able to unseat a more or less established gentleman in that of Dr. Keith Mitchell.
He was a part of a more established party.
Well, yes. I give that. But, you know, in the person of Dickon Mitchell itself, right. It is definitely an inspiration to young people. It tells us that we can make a difference and we are a force to be reckoned with.
All right. The headline in today's Daily Observer, I'll just go to that first before we get into some policy discussions. Minister of Social Transformation, Dean Jones, has welcomed the possible introduction of a sex offenders register. This is something that has taken place for quite some time in terms of a debate nationally. What I want to ask you, what are your feelings on a national sex offenders register? Do you think that is something whose time has come?
Yeah, I think it is very timely to have something or a discussion on something like that. What it is, as a party, is something that we'll be discussing. As you just said, it's something that has recently been come out in the public and been talked about more so. And once we have had discussions on it, we will definitely make a statement to the general public.
Okay, fair enough. I won't press you on that. I would introduce this to the discussion, and this is a post from one of the contributors to Observer Radio. He's been on my program. He's on the Big Issues on a regular basis, Carlin Knight. And he posted a few hours ago, "I'm happy for Trevor Walker's presentation. A debate is meant to have two sides. All this gloating about the creation of a national sex offenders registry, and no one wants to examine the demerits. We're in a small society, the stigma it could cause, discrimination, rehabilitation, the effect on children and family, double jeopardy in respect of punishment twice for the same crime, and the blatant hypocrisy and classism that it would create." And I'm quoting him here because I can guarantee, and he emphasizes guarantee you, as sure as the sun will shine, no person with means in society is going on to that register, not one. Money. And the influence of money. I think we live in a small society. We know that there are some folks who perhaps have not behaved on all four corners or on all four legs with the law.
Yeah, some people are naughty.
And because of the fact that they are, at least the perception is because they have money, they were able to get away with it. Does Carlin have a point?
I believe he does have a point. In our society, as again, we are a small society, and there are things that goes on within our society, Darren, that honestly, we need to stop turning a blind eye at. There are things that needs to be addressed, and the whole question of money is, if you have a certain influence, what makes you? I'll put it out there. What makes someone with money any better than someone who doesn't? And in terms of representation, so because of your money and your influence, you're able to seek proper representation and keep, let's say, your nose out of certain things. Whereas you would have been naughty like anybody else, any ordinary citizen. So we need to really examine our society on a whole in that regard.
So we expect to hear from the DNA on this issue?
Definitely. Okay. Definitely.
All right. Let's pivot now. It's 27 minutes after 7 o'clock. So let's pause for a message. Yes, I see some WhatsApp messages here. That one is for Jolly Beach. But we'll talk about some matters pertinent to the decentralization of government. We'll talk about that right after this.
Thank you.
Okay.
For tips on eating healthy and making better life choices, keep it locked every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Observer Radio, 91.1 FM.
At Sir Lester Bird Medical Center, we're currently making some important changes so you get our finest emergency care. Using our emergency room for non-emergent issues leads to long wait times for everyone. Don't waste your time. Use your community clinics for any health problems that you may have. But for emergency care, that's always there for you when you need it most, call 911 or come to the emergency room at Sir Lester Bird Medical Center. This is a public service announcement by Sir Lester Bird Medical Center.
A poorly maintained car engine can age faster. That's why our engineers formulated Total Quartz engine oil with age resistance technology, a breakthrough innovation that ensures optimal performance and improves protection against mechanical wear by up to 74%. Choosing Total Quartz is choosing the engine oil that keeps your engine younger for longer. Available at all Rubis service stations. Compared to industry limits on ACEA engine wear test.
This is Observer Radio.
Your voice counts. Your questions are answered. This is Observer AM.
29 minutes after 7 o'clock in Antigua and Barbuda. This is Observer AM. Darren Matthew Ward in your company. We're continuing with Mr. Roland Timothy. He's the spokesperson for the DNA this morning, and he's also the party's candidate for the constituency of St. John's City South. How many people in City South, Mr. Timothy?
The last...
how many people on the voters list?
Yeah, I got it's around 1,800, but there may be a bit more than that because I think that list needs to be updated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Decentralization of government, that is something that's a part of your 2040 plan, as I recall. When you speak about decentralization, what do you mean? Because we look at government, we perhaps easily recognize areas where it is inefficient. And when I hear decentralization, or when some people hear decentralization, they think of additional layers of bureaucracy, which might have the unintended consequence of greater inefficiency.
I will start off this way, Darren. The centralization of government in and of itself, it is a way of monopolizing the authority of the ruling party within our society. And guess what? After elections, you oftentimes hear people say, we don't see the minister, we don't hear from them. And so you find a situation where decisions are made that affect the country on a whole. And you ask yourself, well, how were these decisions arrived? What sort of information is gathered, and how is that information collected? And you find that it's a few people who are making the decisions for all. Not that there's anything really wrong with that. But what we're saying within the Democratic National Alliance is that we want everybody to be involved in the development of our nation, right? And so the Parish Council is intended to gather directly from the people what their needs and challenges are, and their recommendations to overcoming those challenges, and putting it through the central government to implement those policies that will have a direct benefit on everybody. So that is the whole idea of decentralizing the authority of the government.
How would parish councils be set up? Is it going to be elected by people within the parish?
That is correct. So what we've decided, or what we're looking at, is having a collective within each parish. So you would have to elect a chairperson, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, the regular construct of a well-run organization within each parish. We also propose to have a city council of St. John's, because St. John's does need to have a mayor. Just having these the Development Control Authority, or the
St.
John's Development, and we want to make it official and have actually a city mayor who will be responsible for the development and upkeep of the city of St. John's.
Something similar to what obtains in Trinidad, let's say.
Correct. Okay. And I know that it also obtains in Jamaica, and the country where I was born, Dominica. I know for sure that is one of the systems of government that runs the country. From my village,
Roseau has a mayor?
Yes.
Or a city council?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember from a young boy growing up. As a matter of fact, one of my teachers who taught me at St. Mary's Academy in Dominica moved on to be the mayor of Roseau at one point.
All right.
Even within the villages, you have the whole issue of the self-help, where it's a community effort, whatever is being done. So you have the village council who is duly elected to serve, and it's for a term, and of course there's re-election. So something like that we want to see happen in Antigua and Barbuda. I understand that there was some introduction to it some time ago, and it has been dissolved, but we want to reintroduce that for Antigua.
How would that benefit people? What real life difference will it make?
It will have a difference in that the people will have a direct say in whatever policies are being implemented within their own constituencies. Because by having the parish council, it gives people, the nationals, or let's say the residents of the country, to directly approach the city council, put their issues at hand, tell them what their challenges are, give them their recommendations or how they would like to see certain things implemented. And then it will be discussed at that level, then taken to the central government or the cabinet, and their policies can be implemented that will have a direct effect on the people.
Sure that's not going to be, that sounds like more bureaucracy, Mr. Timothy. Sounds like more delay, or it's going to take, the cabinet already has enough challenges as it is, and dealing with so many issues. What you're saying sounds like it's going to add to that. You don't think so?
I think it's going to make it easier, because Darren, let's be real. If you are a serious serving minister or parliamentary representative, you really do not have the time, or should not, in my estimation, have the time to micromanage a ministry, for example, or a constituency. There is no way that any one person or minister is going to be able to effectively touch on every issue that affects the people of the constituents. If you're running a ministry and you're in charge of a constituency, there is no way by micromanaging that constituency is going to be as effective as opposed to having a parish council where you get a breakdown, so to speak, before it comes to the minister. Okay. And then the minister does not have the monopolizing power of saying, well, this is how it's going to go one way or the other. The people, the citizens or the residents do have a direct say in what happens.
Does Mr. Benjamin micromanage the constituents of St. John's City South?
I cannot speak to that, but what I can tell you is that in moving through the constituency, I oftentimes hear people say, as a matter of fact, some persons say, you know what, I am going to support one way or the other because of what you can do for me directly. And so we need to really re-examine that. Okay. Why this check your minister type of mentality that we have? We need to cut it out, to be honest with you, Darren.
Has anyone ever said to you, hey, what you can do for me?
Yes, directly.
How do you deal with that?
I let anybody know, quite frankly, listen, I work, right? I work to take care of myself and my family. And my putting up myself as a candidate is to help facilitate the general public in terms of what it is that they would like to do for their own betterment. It is not about me. So I'm not going to personally go around, giving people. I will help when it is needed, if I can, how I can. But to say in the way that we've been accustomed to, no, Darren, we need to cut that out.
No T-shirts full of money.
No, we need to cut that out, Darren. Honestly, that needs to stop. That system where because you're not really empowering people when you do that. And I will put it out there. If anybody comes to you, parliamentary representative or otherwise, and offers you, let's say, cash, right? Ask yourself, is that person giving me that cash from their personal coffers? How much money do you have like that you can, just go around freely giving money out to the people of your constituency? And if you're doing it, why? The next question is, are they taking the money from the government? And so if that is the case, then it means that they're using your own tax money to basically bribe you. You work, you pay your taxes, the tax is collected by government, and then that money is given to who the person in power deems fit to give it to. So are they really serving you? And you also hear the whole question of persons getting awards for being longest serving parliamentarian or longest serving minister or whatever. Did they serve their country? Or was it a service to themselves? What benefit has the country gained from this person being the longest serving minister other than for their own personal self-aggrandizement?
Very interesting perspective. Why not approach this through the channel of constitutional reform? Because what you're saying sounds to me like there will need to be some form of constitutional reform.
Definitely, Darren. Definitely. The DNA is, we're on record to note that we will definitely be enacting new legislation to change the whole construct of the system of government that we have. We also want to devolve the authority from the control of the central government. When we establish those the city councils, we're going to ensure that we adhere to the good governance principles.
Which are?
For example, that Madam Leader is on record to know that there's a zero tolerance policy. Anybody who finds themselves, in contravention of the law, anybody who takes what does not belong to them, anybody who is abusing their power, there'll be a zero tolerance policy with regard to that. And I think we all support Ms. Joanne Messiah on that venture. So we will definitely be adhering to the good governance principles, and definitely constitutional reform is one of the key subjects that we'll
Will that be a priority
addressing
if you win the next general elections?
Definitely, Darren. That has to be a top priority on our agenda.
When we look at what's taking place in Antigua and Barbuda today. I mean, we had a conversation with the chairman of the Labour Party yesterday on the program, and I pointed out certain things to him with respect to some of the areas where people will point out and say the government has failed. What do you think? You, Roland Timothy, think where do you think this government has failed this country, and why are you running to address that in your campaign?
I like that. I think it's more of a case where, Darren, I do not think that the government is doing enough to assist with the people of Antigua and Barbuda. The policies that we've witnessed so far that the government have been implementing, we do not think that it is reaching. The general population is not feeling it in a real way that they should. And so that's why we have decided in the DNA to put ourselves up, because we see that the government can and should do more for the people.
What do you say do more? I mean, when you're listening to the PM during the convention and the chairman yesterday, they went through a few things that they think people should respond favorably to when they go to the polls whenever the election is called. So when you say do more, what do you mean?
For example, from since this administration have come into to power, and I don't necessarily like to use that term power. We've had several groundbreaking initiatives for several projects. Have those projects been realized? And so that's the question here. So with all these grand ideas that we have for development of the country, are they really being materialized? And are the people of Antigua and Barbuda experiencing the positive effects, so to speak, of those initiatives? And that's how I would put it.
So you think it's been more bluster and more smoke than fire?
Yeah, it's just a talk shop, and that's why we stay in the DNA. We stay away from having a manifesto, because a manifesto is really just some intent of what you may want to do.
But a 2040 plan online is the same thing?
Well, not necessarily, because what it is that we have mapped out a blueprint as to how our policies are going to be implemented.
So and that's what a manifesto is?
Not necessarily, because guess what? We do not necessarily need to get into power, wait until we get into power to implement or to introduce some of the policies that we have. Oh. And by giving the government, so to speak, some ideas as to how they can fix certain things. If it is that once we get into power or into administration and we implement a particular...
You fell into the same trap.
I know. And we implement a certain policy, the blueprint will be there to carry on. So if it is that the people of Antigua and Barbuda decides at the end of that one term that they want to go to something else, so there is a plan that can continue.
A national development plan.
Exactly. Okay. It's a long term.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And that's one criticism that has been leveled again with the current administration and previous administrations. If Roland Timothy is not successful in the next general elections, whenever it is so called, what happens to your future politically?
It continues. I do have a career, and I have a vocation that I love very much, and I think I do very well at. So that I will continue doing that, and I will continue the campaign of, sensitizing people of the alternative that is there.
Will it be as a part of the DNA?
Of course, the DNA is here to stay, and we're going to continue to work tirelessly with the support, supporting our leader, and with the support of the other colleagues. We will continue to fight.
Pollsters have suggested that, and I'm not just referring to any one pollster. Mr. Wickham has referred to this, and Mr. Winter referred to this because he was on the program about a week ago. Both suggested that the DNA really, it's unfortunate that you're separate and apart from the country's main opposition, that you would stand a better chance of being in government if the opposition was united. That those are two of the country's at least noted pollsters on different sides of the perspective, because one is, their numbers tend to favor, based on their analysis, one party. The other pollster looks at things a little differently. But that's fine. Both of them agree on the one point, that there needs to be unity between the DNA and the UPP. If the next election comes and there is defeat for the DNA, is that what happens to you? I know you're not the leader. I accept that. But what do you say to that? For those who will say to you, hey, you guys should be together.
Well, first of all, Darren, I would love to see the data that is collected by those pollsters. Yeah, because I do not. And
do you have a pollster? We have to go. I just didn't realize the time had crept upon us this month. Do you have a pollster?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Yeah, but it would be interesting to
get the data.
To get the data.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Roland Timothy. It was fun.
It has been a pleasure, sir. Right. I thank you very much for having me, and I thank you for the listeners this morning.
All the best to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And have a great day.
It's now time for the second morning edition.